Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So welcome to another edition of In the News. I have to start out by giving props to the artist Maxwell. The other night I went to a show at the Kennedy Center, and I have to say, y'all, that show was nice, man. It was just nice. You ever been to a show? There's some shows that are pretty good, there's some shows that are awesome, there's some that are okay. Then there's those shows that are terrible, like just terrible to the point where you leave the venue pissed off, and on top of that your ears are ringing because the bass was too loud, so you're driving in the car talking trash about the show on the way home pissed off. But then there's those shows that are just nice. There's no other way to describe it. It's just nice. Like, you gotta let that ice part just roll off your tongue and hold it. Just nice. That was the Maxwell show. He partnered with the National Symphony Orchestra, so it was Maxwell plus Maxwell's band, and even his band was killing it. He had this black dude on the piano. That dude was killing it on the keys. And there was this woman who's his backup singer, this black woman, killing it. And then you add the orchestra, like the National Symphony Orchestra. I mean, the way that the sound just resonated through the concert hall, it sounded so good. Even the conductor for the orchestra, you know, the dude with the stick, he was in there getting it. And it was this white dude, swagged out too. He was going. And there was this one part where he dropped the stick. I swear he dropped the stick, but he dropped it and he picked it back up, and he was so smooth with him. I was like, okay. And then them people on the violin, I mean, they were killing it. It was so good. It was so good. I always have an appreciation for people that just love musicality and love to try to step outside of the box and just, you know, give you something different every time they present their artwork. And so the way that the sounds and the strings and everything, it was just this sound that just saturated the room and surrounded you, and the entire essence of the show. It was a really great experience. I'm not sure if there are any more tickets available. I know the show runs through Saturday, but I think it might be sold out. But yeah, personally, just because there's been so many crazy things that happened personally in the last few months, I was like, man, when it rains, it pours. I'm good though, so no worries. But that show was just a great way to kind of escape for a little bit and just really live in the moment and enjoy what was being presented to me. The only thing I do wish he would have done, though, I wish he would have performed the song 1990X. That's one of my favorite Maxwell songs. That song and Submerged Until We Become the Sun. Those are two of my favorite Maxwell songs. And I just knew that both songs, but mainly 1990X, would have sounded so good with the strings and the harps and the dude with the chimes that would have... Like, I knew that was going to sound good. Even on the way there, I was driving in my car with the song playing like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. And I don't know if you're like me, but if the right song is on in the car, my car automatically becomes the benefit concert extravaganza experience. Even if there's other people in the car, it don't matter. They're going to have to sit through it. That was me. So I was in there killing it in the car, having me a ball with the windows down. I'm sure people were looking at me like I was crazy at the red light, but it is what it is. Plus, I don't know, 1990X, it just, the way that he sings the bridge sounds so good. And you know, Maxwell, he has that nice airy falsetto, like a nice airy one. How is that? The bridge on that song when the night is through. I like saying Maxwell, and the morning rays all over, see you through. I'm like, okay, Maxwell be killing that part. My falsetto ain't as good as his, but really great show. So listen, if Maxwell comes to your town, even if you don't even got the orchestra, you should still go see him. Anyway, moving on. Issa Rae, please don't do it. Please don't do it, because I can guarantee you that this was not anything that was requested by the masses. We're good on this one. You know what? You just go back to the drawing board. Y'all come up with something else. They're reporting that Issa Rae has signed on to do a reimagining of the film Set It Off. Long story short, they're doing a reboot in 2019 of Set It Off. I think this is a terrible idea. This is just something like, nobody really needs this, because in my opinion, Set It Off served its purpose in 1996, and it still serves that same purpose in 2019. It translates well in 2019. That's why it's still on TV every 5 minutes. You know, there's just some things people didn't ask for. We didn't ask for this. A Set It Off reboot in 2019 is like giving kids peppermint on Halloween. They didn't ask for that. They were waiting for the Reese's Pieces and the Snickers and stuff, and then here you come with some peppermint. Like, they can't get that on Sunday every day at church from the old ladies, because, you know, they always got some in their purse, even if it's stuck to the wrapper at the bottom of the purse in the corner next to the bank receipt. You know, they're good on that. They don't want no peppermint. That's like somebody bringing a casserole to a barbecue. We didn't ask for that. Like, first of all, your job was to bring the plates and to bring the cups. So you brought this casserole, and we ain't got a way to eat it because nobody brought the plates. Your job, but you decided you want to bring casserole. Why? It's a barbecue. What you doing? And on top of that, you were supposed to bring cups. So now we got this big old giant pitcher of sweet tea and punch and lemonade and everything like that, and we don't have a way to drink it. And the only thing in the cooler that doesn't require a cup is a bunch of liquor. So now the kids ain't got nothing to drink because the dude that was on the grill making all the food before we all showed up drunk all the kids' Capri Suns. So now what we supposed to do? You see what that's what Set It Off in 2019 reminds me of if they ever did a reboot. I think the issue that I have with this is that Hollywood has just gotten to this point where you have so many talented black screenwriters, and I'm really speaking from the standpoint of people that are black that have desires to work in the film industry. You have so many talented black screenwriters and young screenwriters at that who have all of these ideas and they can't even get into the door to make a pitch, let alone sell a script, because Hollywood's not even trying to hear anything they have to say. So when you have somebody like Issa, who finally has a little bit of pull in Hollywood and is able to kind of call a few shots, just enough to have people hear her out on different ideas and everything else like that. I just think it sucks that once again we're going back to the reboots and coming out with projects that we don't need. There's just some movies that don't need to be remade. They serve their purpose, and I think they still translate well in 2019. A movie like Set It Off, a movie like Soul Food, because I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to redo that scene with Vanessa Williams when she had that knife. Chasing after Uncle Miles. Films like Friday, films like Boys in the Hood, films like Claudine, if you remember that one, or Mahogany, or Purple Rain, or hell, The Color Purple, Crooklyn, Sister Act 1 and 2, Forrest Gump, Remember the Titans. There's just some movies y'all don't need to touch. Dead Presidents. There's just some movies, leave them alone. And then just because Set It Off was already such a great film, there's no way, in my personal opinion, I don't think you'd be able to recreate that film and it be as good as, the original. When you just look at the circumstances of how that film was created, the stars just really aligned for that film. Like, first you had F. Gary Gray, the director, and he did an excellent job. And this was one of his first really big projects. He had been doing some music videos. I know he did a few TLC music videos and some projects for some other people. But, this was one of his first really big, Hollywood films. And he did an excellent job with just how it was all put together. I even like the director's cut of the film as well. And then, of course, when you get to the lead actresses, I mean, come on. The way that first of all, it's a crime that the movie didn't win a lot of awards, but the way that the lead actresses performed in their roles, it was just excellent. You had, and I think it's because they were hungry for it. They were still on the up and coming. You had Kimberly Elise, you had Vivica A. Fox, you had Jada Pinkett, and you had Queen Latifah. And all of them were on the up and coming when it came to acting as far as the big screen. So you had Kimberly Elise, who she'd kind of been known for a few small things here and there, but a lot of people got introduced to her through the film Set It Off. And she did an excellent job in the film. I don't even think I could see anybody else playing her and be as convinced. I know they did like a play or something that traveled, but different context. It's not even the same. It's theater in comparison to film. So they're apples and oranges. All the theater heads will fight you if you try to ever mix the world of film and theater. Some people in theater think film is a bastard art. But anyway, so you had Kimberly Elise, Jada Pinkett, of course. She was still on the up and coming. She had been in a few roles before then. She had been on a different world. She had a few things going. Of course, Queen Latifah. She had the music going. She had Living Single. She had been in the movie House Party 2, a few other little projects here and there. And then, of course, you have Vivica A. Fox, who has an interesting come up because, she'd been on a few soap operas, but I didn't realize she had been in 3 different Jackson videos. Did y'all know that? So, she was in Michael Jackson's Remember the Time video, which I didn't know. I read this in her book. She was an extra. And so there's a scene in the music video. You don't see her whole body, you just see a piece of her. But there's a scene where Iman has her tea, and I guess, or she's trying to give Iman the tea, and she pushes her arm away. That arm is Vivica. Look on the side. See, that shadow right there, boom, that was Vivica. And she wanted y'all to know that. But in addition to that, she's in Randy Jackson, the brother. He had a group called the Gypsies. And they had a music video for the song Perpetrators. And so she's the lead model in that video. And then Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation short film. When she came out, or was it the anthology? No, it's like a short film. When she came out with Rhythm Nation, they kind of made like a mini movie, kind of like Michael Jackson Moonwalker or like Beyonce's Lemonade. And so there was of course, Rhythm Nation, the video, and Miss You Much. And they had a video treatment for The Knowledge, and I want to say State of the World. But Vivica's in that too. And so they were all just hungry for it. And I just don't think you can really recreate some of those scenes. That scene where Cleo dies, nobody can redo that. That's some stuff you just lock it in. It carries well 20 years later. The scene with Vivica when she goes off on the people at the bank because they fired her because they thought she robbed the very first bank in the opening of the film, and she spazzes out on that dude because that guy was like, what does he say? What happens the next time one of your friends robs the bank? How do we know you're not in collusion? And Vivica was like, what? Collusion? Let me tell you something. I'm here at 820 sharp every morning and I work myself until quitting time. Just yesterday, I counted 240,000 I had for you. That's how you should know. Listen, I swear, I didn't see all the girls when they used to do this thing when they would fight. I swear I didn't see this thing here until after Set It Off came out. That's all I'm saying. So leave Set It Off alone. So y'all go back to the drawing board, do something else. If y'all need scripts, I got a bunch of them sitting in. Y'all want a PDF? I can send it tonight. Man, there's so many talented screenwriters and everybody else who has all these gifts. Give some of them a shot. Hollywood works my nerves, man. Anyway, moving on. And they said Tekashi 6ix9ine is out there singing. You hear me? Singing in perfect pitch, perfect key, great resonance, sustainability, all of it. Diction, it's all together for him. Like he said, he don't want to spend no 40 to 47 years in prison. So he said he is going to cooperate. You know, the lesson that can be learned from this, because I'm not going to spend too much time on Tekashi 6ix9ine, because he's not even my kind of person to even waste time reporting on. But, you know, the lesson to be learned in this is people have to stop emulating and trying to display themselves to be a part of a lifestyle that they know is not native to their experience. And that's pretty much what got him caught up. You have a lot of people who go and try to be something they're not. For what? Clout, for temporary success, 15 minutes of fame. And all of that never has longevity. It just leads to problems later down the line. And so now you're looking at this dude who built an entire image of how he was all about the drug trade and this, that, and third. He'd shoot you and kill your mom and kill everybody else. And now you've watched him just pretty much try to turn into a totally different person. Now he's using his full government name and yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And, you know, how high do you want me to jump? And he's giving out all the information. Yes, I can tell you where they were. I can tell you what they wanted for Christmas, what their favorite color is, what they're allergic to. I can tell you about the first tooth that they lost. It was tooth number 4. Like, you know, and some of that is also on the industry. And I think we have to be careful of what we support, because what I'm seeing now is the music industry does this thing where, hold on, let me backtrack. Yes, there's always been references to certain activity and certain things in hip-hop music. Yes, there's been references to people talking about what happened in their neighborhood or how they grew up. Or, yeah, I grew up in a neighborhood where there was no opportunity for jobs and everything like that. And I had to sell drugs to support my family because, I don't know, maybe some this, that, and this, I don't know, my mom died when I was 15 and I got a girl pregnant. And people really were telling their true narratives, but the difference was that was coming from a genuine experience. This was really what people were actually living, and they wanted the world to see what it was like through their lens, because a lot of times the world was secluded from the experience of black people in certain locations, in certain areas, from different experiences. And now what you're seeing today is these artists and these record labels are literally fabricating and creating a narrative and pushing it out there for the masses to consume. And so now you have people going out of their way to try to do foolish things to fit that image, because now what hip-hop has done, as far as the industry, the execs up top, who usually are not the consumers, who usually never had the same experience as the artists or the fans, but they know that they can make a pretty dollar off of this, you know, they create this narrative where in order to make it in hip-hop, if you weren't discovered from social media, like if you didn't get on from SoundCloud, if you didn't get on because you already had a following and then you got traction and then they said, fine, we'll invest in you. But literally, if you're not one of those people, your only ticket into hip hop right now with this current industry is you got to be a shoot 'em up, kill 'em up rapper. Shoot 'em up, kill 'em up, push it up and talk about the drugs, this, that, and the third. And a lot of the times you're seeing entertainers, like I said, that was not their life. They grew up in some suburban town where they were the only black kid in school. They grew up in an environment where they had 2 college-educated parents. You know, they grew up in an environment where the mom was a teacher, the dad was an engineer. They got their first car when they were 15, and it was a nice car. It wasn't a hoopty. It actually had all 4 of the rims on it, and it actually had music that worked and air conditioning. You know, you have these kids that are having these great experiences, and then they get signed, and they have to go through this whole image shift. The next thing you know, they're the baddest one on the block, and they'll slit your throat. Just don't even look at me the wrong way. And it's funny because sometimes you'll go and you'll look into the history of some of these entertainers, and they had no track record of anything before they got signed. But after they got signed, all of a sudden, they're about that life. And so you have a lot of people getting themselves caught up trying to be things that they're not. And so the lesson to be learned is, when you're living on a borrowed experience, you're living a lifestyle that is borrowed. Eventually, you got to pay back whatever debt comes as the tides turn. As things start to hit the fan, you're gonna have to pay back that debt. When things start getting out of pocket, you can't go and revert back to, wait a minute, this isn't even the kind of person I am. I grew up in a nice wholesome home, and I give to the elephants in Kenya. No, it don't work like that. That's why it's so funny. We gotta kind of be careful with what we support, because the industry, as long as that kind of stuff continues to be supported and funded, that's what they're going to keep pushing out there. And so that's where we're at. It's always funny because it just reminds me of how I grew up. There were so many folks, like if you followed me for a long time, I'm originally from Washington State. Now I live in the other Washington, D.C., but I will always remember this time. Me and 2 of my friends, we went out. I was so happy just to be out the house because I had been grounded for a good minute. So I finally got a taste of freedom. I think I was 15. And so me, 2 friends, and we were going to meet some other folks from school, and we were all going to go to the bowling alley, just hang out, because the town that I was in, this little town called Spanaway, wasn't too much to do. You go to the bowling alley, you go hang out at the lake, you hang at somebody's house. That's about it. And then they built a Walmart, so when we were in middle school, we used to play tag in Walmart. But anyway, we were supposed to go to the bowling alley. One of my friends had his crush on this girl, and the girl was at this party that was an hour away, like way up past Seattle. I was like, oh God. And so I was kind of nervous about going because I was like, man, if my parents call and say they need me to come home and I'm not where I told them I'm going to, I was supposed to be, this isn't going to end well. Like, we're not close. But I didn't drive that day. They were driving and I was in the car, and I was so pressed to still just get out the house, so I rode them. But anyway, we go to this house party. Now, mind you, the three of us, just picture two other versions of me. Like, that's just the demeanor we have. Like, just really easygoing. I'm not really somebody to really pop off on anybody. I don't even have that kind of energy most of the time. But anyway, we're at this party. We don't know anybody there. All we know is the girl that he has a crush on and her sister. And so, of course, he goes off into the distance trying to spit his game to the girl. And then the other guy that I was with, I don't know where he went. He disappeared somewhere. But I'm just kind of, minding my business. And, okay, this is cool. All right. I just wanted to go bowling, man. When we leaving? And so I hear this commotion. And I look, it's the other friend. All of a sudden, he done got in an argument with some dude. So two of them, and my friend all of a sudden turns into somebody I ain't never seen before. What? It ain't nothing. What? We can do this right now. I'm like, wait a minute. What? You got horses in your backyard. What? But anyway, so he's doing, it ain't nothing. What? And then the other dude is like, okay, we can do this right now. And me, I'm sitting here thinking like, we're at this house party where we don't know anybody. I don't know how many of these people in here are cousins or who has what. And this is just not our stumping ground. We need to kind of bring all of this back down to reality, because this isn't the smoke we want today. I ain't trying to say I was the punk in the group, but I was just trying to be the realist. Like, it's always a bad idea to go into unknown territory and start some mess. And so the two of them get to arguing. I'm trying to calm my friend down, and then the other guy realizes I'm with the friend. He's like, oh, so you in this too? So what you want to do? And I was like, I just want to go bowling. Like, what we doing? But anyway, somehow the thing died down, and somehow the friend that was with old girl, because I knew they were just upstairs, somehow he didn't hear anything. I'm like, we're about to get jumped in the parking lot, in that driveway, and everything. But, it was so funny, because my friend, the way I chewed him out in that car, like, good and well you don't fight. Like, and then you're going to try to pull me in it. Like, that's the one thing. If you want to be that person who wants to pop off in public and fight everybody, especially if you had a drink or two or something like that, don't bring me along. I am not the fighting friend. I'm the fun friend. Okay, you need to bring the Vin Diesel friend for that kind of mess. I'm the friend you call when y'all are playing Taboo, or y'all are playing Heads Up, or y'all are going to karaoke, or going bowling like I thought we was doing. That's what you call me for. Or when you want to have some nice intellectual black topics and discussion, that we can get that cranking. That's me. So yeah, people living on these broad lifestyles. So Tekashi 69, I don't know what's going on with him. We'll see, but he might as well. Because from what I read, I mean, he's dropped so many names. I'm like, yo, he might be in danger. I hope his family and stuff is all safe. Crazy, right? And then in other foolery news, another thing that we did not ask for, a Whitney Houston hologram tour. It starts to become really jacked up when you constantly see so many people trying to get rich off dead black celebrities and entertainers. Because I have yet to hear anything with any entertainers who are not black. They're doing it with Michael. They did it with Tupac. Now they're doing it with Whitney. I have an issue with it because, one, all of these people died under such terrible circumstances. It's not like these people, it would be different if Whitney Houston lived to be 92 and then maybe 20 years later, people were like, oh, well, we want the world to experience what people would have experienced in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and we just want to share it, so we're going to do, that could almost be somewhat less terrible. But, when she died the way that she died, that's kind of like sometimes you leave some legacies alone and you let them rest in peace and you let the music speak for itself. Because, in my opinion, people like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Elvis, even though he's not anything to get excited over, but these are people that the world never forgets. Like, even when I was 4 or 5 years old, I knew who Elvis was. I may not have known the music, but I knew the image just because it was plastered everywhere. Whitney Houston is somebody society will never forget, so you don't have to go and do a hologram tour of it. But it's like they've been exploiting Whitney Houston both in life and in death, because the worst thing I can always remember is Whitney Houston dying, and literally a month and a half later, they got the Houston family on a reality show. So you got Sissy Houston, who just buried her daughter. She's on TV, on OWN, Oprah. That's your people. That's your network that did that one. And Pat Houston. My eyes on Pat Houston. I know for sure in my spirit she has something to do with this hologram tour, because she's the first one to sign up for anything that's going to bring out a check, I swear. But anyway, you got Sissy Houston, the mother who's now mourning her dead daughter, on the show, and then you got Bobby Christina, the girl who's mourning her dead mother, and they're mourning together on national TV. Like, come on, that's terrible. That's about as bad as the time Fantasia attempted suicide, and then her record label had her out on Good Morning America and all the TV circus 3 days later promoting the album, and then also made her talk about the attempted suicide. I said, what kind of... Are y'all that desperate for money? Like, dang, y'all talk about making sure that your employees are good. They said, get on out there and talk about how you try to kill yourself, and then you need to sing right after, because we got to get you to the next city. What kind of nonsense. The industry is fickle. And the other bit is, you just know that the hologram tour is going to be some nonsense, because if it's anything like what I've seen with that Michael hologram and the other attempted Whitney hologram, they can keep it. It's not even needed. I remember watching, they were supposed to do the duet thing on The Voice. It was supposed to be Christina Aguilera and Whitney Houston. And I was like, how is this going to go? And so, it leaked to the internet. And so you watch it, and it's not even Whitney Houston. It's a totally different actress who ended up going to the little technology studio, and they turn that actress into Whitney Houston. She just puts on the Whitney Houston little dress and the wig and all that crap, and it's a random actress just singing. I'm like, that ain't Whitney Houston. And they did that with the Michael Jackson performance at the Billboard Awards when he did the Slave to the Rhythm song. Like, you were watching it, and I was like, wait a minute, that ain't Michael. And it was this random dude that was an impersonator, and they put him in the whole little studio thing, and then he became the hologram. So it's not even... They weren't even holograms of the actual people. They're people acting as the person and then being turned into a hologram. I'm like, that defeats the purpose. The only time I've seen the hologram actually work, because even with the Tupac one was a little bit less terrible, because at least the little company tech place, they got all these different images of Tupac, and they literally actually tried to create a Tupac. They didn't just have two random people acting as Tupac and put them on stage. But the only one that I've seen actually be somewhat decent was when Janet did it at Essence in 2000. Like, she had two holograms of herself dancing with her, and it's different because Janet was, I guess, alive. But, she goes into the little tech studio and does whatever choreography in the outfit that she was going to perform in, and then they put it on the stage, and if you were at the show, there were 3 Janets, performing. So that makes sense. But, stop exploiting Whitney Houston. Like I said, she's been exploited in life and in death. And the tangible way of seeing that exploitation is just how much they made that woman tour. Like, man, from like 85 to like 2003, 2004, she just stayed on tour. And so people would always say that mess about, she messed up her voice, she was a drug addict, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can say she smoked cigarettes and she did some other things, but at the end of the day, all of them tours, that crap is wear and tear on your voice. And so they just kept demanding her to do all these different shows, like the Bodyguard tour. They kept extending it and adding more dates and adding more dates. And somebody like Whitney Houston, she doesn't have easy songs to sing. It's not like she has a song or two where she can slack off, because people pay good money and they want to hear all of the high notes. Whitney Houston was somebody where you had producers that specifically only wanted to work with her because they wanted to test her range and see what they could get away with as far as producers and composers, as far as how high they could write these songs, because they knew that she'd be the one person who could get the note and sustain it and have power in the note and not be thin. And so, people would pay top-notch dollar to see this woman. And so for her, unfortunately, 2 hours every night for 200 shows, she has to sing at the top of her range and give her all, or people are going to say she's crap. Because we saw how they treated her when she went on the very last tour, which I think, again, we're talking about that exploitation. She didn't want to go on that tour. But Clive Davis and them convinced her, you got to go on it. That's what the fans are waiting for. Whitney already knew her voice wasn't where she wanted it to be. And they still propped her up and put her out there. And so you saw what happened. She went to Australia. Them Australians weren't having it with her. They booed her, and they were walking out of the show, and they wanted refunds, and they told the media she couldn't entertain a dead rat, and that she was fat because, of course, she got sick while she was on the tour, and the medicine they gave her, it gave the steroids. Her face puffed up, and she was bloated, and I mean, it was horrible. And so, like, man, let that woman rest in peace. Yeah, I'm sorry. The way that society treated Whitney Houston later down the line, she was always a crackhead and she was high. Even though in 2019, those same antics are now celebrated. All of your favorite entertainers rap and sing about lean and popping pills. And I'll always remember when I heard Truffle Butter and Wayne dropped that line where he talked about the cocaine on his you-know-what and what the girl was going to do to it. I said, whoa, excuse me? I turned into one of them rich people. Oh. Like, now that's celebrated. But you saw Whitney Houston vilified for the exact same thing. So just, I don't know, leave Whitney Houston alone. Let her legacy be. I'll stop trying to get money off dead black entertainers. Some jacked up stuff, man. And much more happier news, mainly because I don't want to be pissed off the whole video. There's a black trumpeter. Trumpet the instrument, not Donald Trump. Trumpet like the brass section at an Earth, Wind & Fire concert. He's a composer named Terrence Blanchard, and he has an opera entitled Fire Shut Up in My Bones. And this opera is actually going to be the very first opera performed at the New York City Metropolitan Opera House by a black composer, which is a pretty big deal in the world of theater and opera and all of the fine arts. However, I will say this, it's kind of, I'm giving a side eye at the same time, because that opera house has been there for 136 years, so I'm like, you know what? Okay. All right. And it makes me wonder, how many other black composers before him tried to get onto that same stage and were denied because of who they were and how they looked, and people thought, oh, you're not going to be able to sell because people don't think you're smart enough to put together an entire opera. Because composing entire productions, it's a lot of work. It's very detail oriented. You have to literally map out everything as far as how you're going to arrange the music and all of the vocals and everything, as far as how people will present this. It's a lot of work. But the other thing that I'm looking at, as far as, I guess, a lesson to be learned, is that there are so many talented people in society. And the more that society tries to be the gatekeeper and keep people pushed out and not give access, society just sets itself up for failure. You set yourself up to be disenfranchised and society misses out. I'm sure there are so many problems in the world that could have been fixed or addressed had people not been fearful of the unknown. And the unknown in this instance would be black people. This would be Muslim people. This would be, people that come from marginalized communities. And there's so many people who have all these different gifts. Like, think of all the times you see a story where, I don't know, somebody was choking or having a heart attack and somebody tries to help them, but that person doesn't want the help because that person doesn't look how they want them to look. Or I'll always remember the story of Ann Coulter had a meltdown on the plane because she found out the pilot was black and she didn't want to be on the plane because she didn't think black people could fly planes. I'm like, you know what? So again, that's society. Y'all keep sleeping on black folks. Y'all keep missing out. Because listen, the next thing that I think that's on the up and coming, black male gymnasts. I don't know if you ever watch Twitter or Instagram, but I keep seeing tons of clips of these little black boys and black teenage males just flipping off of cars and flipping off the mama's roof and flipping and okay. That's been a conversation about access. They just never had access to those gyms. Let them get in those gyms and have the money to compete in those competitions. I bet you they're going to start winning some gold medals at the Olympics. Same thing when you talk about just some of the sciences, when you talk about hockey. Like, there's a lot of things that there's just the access wasn't granted, which is why I'm also a fan of pushing for ownership of a lot of these things, so you don't have to beg to get into the doors. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to beg anybody for anything, especially if you put in the work and you have the skill and you have the talent. But anyway. And then some of you were asking me, did I see the Revolt TV Summit on Black America? And I did. If you didn't see it, it was pretty much, they had a group of people on a panel discussing the plight of Black America, Black politics, things that Black Americans should put their energy and focus on. And all the people on a panel were, celebrities or public figures or political pundits. And overall, to be honest, they could have kept the summit. I wasn't impressed. If anything, I was more so concerned and offended by the time it finished. I had a few issues. One of the main issues was, one, I just felt that some of the people on the panel already didn't have the range to discuss some of the conversations that they were trying to carry. They didn't know anything. They didn't have any tangible evidence to make their arguments, to support their arguments. They couldn't bring you any historical facts. A lot of them were up there just talking emotion and feelings. And they ended up just killing whatever it was they were supposed to get. There was one guy up there who the guy in the yellow, I was like, why are you there? I don't even know what your purpose is, because you're taking up space. Because if you're going to have a panel of, 6 or 7 people, and they're supposed to speak on behalf of the plight of 40 million people, you need to have people up there who know what they're talking about. I'll give Killer Mike some kudos for some of the points that he made, but a lot of the people up there, they just didn't know anything. And this is why I'm not a fan of when you put, celebrities and people who are not experts in certain categories as the representative to speak on behalf of that category. You know what I mean? Like, to be fair, you have people who are scholars who live and breathe, something like the plight of Black America, who live and breathe the different subjects that they were trying to cover. Because if you're going to have that summit, one, there needs to be the tangible conversations. What I thought they would have covered, the wealth gap, healthcare, jobs, housing, even mental health is a conversation. Because when we're really at it, and you're talking about the traumatic experience of Black Americans for pretty much for as long as we've been on this continent, that's a conversation to have. So they should have had experts in all those fields. You should have had a psychologist on the stage that understands, the plight of Black health and the Black mind and everything like that. You should have had an economist on there, somebody who could really explain something like the wealth gap and really explain, speaking of that, while we're getting to that, even reparations, they talked about it for 20 seconds, literally 20 seconds. Literally, it was 20 seconds of the entire summit. And then for some reason, T.I. was the gatekeeper on the conversation on reparations. I said, listen, just because T.I. likes to use big words on Instagram and Twitter does not mean you're going to put him out there to speak on behalf of Black folks for everything. I'll say, I was entertained by the bit where him and Candace Owens were going at it about when was America great again. However, that's kind of something people already know. Like, people already know that, okay, when white people are saying "Make America Great Again," or the slogan is "Make America Great Again," the image that's in their mind is the 1950s when white people were flourishing. We got that. Of course, black people weren't included in that, but that's the golden era of America for white folks. They want to go back to that. We got that. So we don't need to spend 10 minutes arguing about that, especially if the summit's only going to be for an hour and 15 minutes. And so, like I said, the focus should have been on those subjects: the healthcare, the housing, the jobs, the emotional health, even some international affairs and how they affect black folks. But again, going back to reparations, that's one of the big conversations right now. And you've seen that's been a topic that a lot of people have really, they've kind of reignited and brought that conversation out there because, of course, a lot of people feel, yes, black people have a claim to make against America in regards to what's owed to them because for 150 years, they work for free, and the foundation of America's wealth is rooted in black oppression and free black labor. And black people got nothing in return for it. And then when that free black labor ended, there were still more atrocities to make sure that, things would continue in the way that they continued. Had America given black Americans reparation immediately when slavery ended, we wouldn't be having the conversation today. But instead, they wanted to make sure that they were going to keep that power structure there. So in addition to the slavery, then came the sharecropping and the Jim Crow and the black codes and the issues with redlining and just so on. Like, there's so many things you can argue about. We're not going to do it tonight because I've done it a million times on this channel. So just dig through my videos. So yes, that's a prominent argument that people are bringing up today. And so when T.I. ran and jumped into the conversation, like, well, let me go ahead and tackle this reparations conversation because I got this one here. And I'm like, oh, Lord. I was like, what is this fool about to say? And then he says this bit about black people can't get reparations because black people are not a nationality. You got to be a nationality. The United States does not give reparations to groups that are not a nationality. And then that was the end of the conversation. Nobody challenged him. And they moved on to the next subject. I said, what? How does this work? And so let me explain something. I just said that whole bit about the whole reparations kind of conversation being reemerged. And I just said this whole bit about, the free labor and the Jim Crow and all of that. And if you think that T.I.'s 25-second response is supposed to negate everything else that I just stated, and mind you, you can really just have conversations upon conversations about why reparations are deserved for black folks. I could go through these books and we could really be here all night. That 20-second rebuttal he had is some foolishness. He didn't have the reins to carry that conversation. So there's that. And the other bit that I don't get is this. His argument was the United States does not do that, so we just need to move on to something else. And I'm like, why is it that we would have to move on to something else, but everybody else gets to sit here and fight and claw for what they want to fight for? Something like Roe v. Wade. That became the law of the land in the 70s. I want to say 1973. And listen, since 1973, you've seen people fight and claw to get that changed. Every politician gets in there. I'm gonna change that. Why? Because they don't accept that, because that's not what some groups want. Obamacare, the same thing. It became the law of the land when the Supreme Court was like, boom, it is what it is. Get over it. And some people were like, nope, we're gonna change that. And so you see people constantly chipping away and changing that. You even the president. Because America, in my opinion, has never followed the rules. So, like, it's funny that people say, oh, well, we have to go by the way that things are. And I'm like, well, everybody else ain't doing it, so why we got to do it? So even with the president, they said, oh, well, in order for him to be president, he's going to have to show his tax returns. He was like, no, I ain't doing that. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, okay, you've been subpoenaed by the so-and-so. You have to do this. I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. Oh, you can't have your family working for you in the White House because, it's a conflict of interest. Psh, F that. I ain't doing that. I'm going to have my daughter as my advisor, and her husband's going to be in my cabinet. Oh, in order to be president and everything else like that, you're going to have to, step down from your businesses because you can't make money while you're representing the United States. Psh, F that. I ain't doing that. I still got my hotel. I'm going to have all my friends and everybody go to the hotels. And when we do international affairs in relation to the United States government, they'll be at my hotels and they'll be using my golf. All of that. So they get to do whatever they want, but you want black folks to fall in line just because somebody told you some BS about how they went and sued the federal government way back in the day, and the response was y'all need to be a nationality to get something, and so y'all accepted that and left it at that and just never fought back for it again. Get out of here with that. So I was too done. And so, again, you need people there who know what they're talking about. Go and get those scholars. Go and get those college professors. Get those people who have done 30 and 40 years of the work. People who have done the social experiments and they've seen the tangible outcomes and the results. Those are the people who needed to be on the panel, not some celebrities. No disrespect to T.I., but that's not his lane. T.I.'s lane, he's the entertainer. That's why he was entertaining to watch when it was him and Candace Owens going at it with whatever they were talking about. That's it. And again, even just some of the people on the panel didn't need to be there. I don't think Candace Owens needed to be there. For me, I don't see her as somebody who cares about the plight of blackness and the success of black people. For me, like I said before on some other videos, she is a mouthpiece for white supremacy, and she's in black skin. If every single time that you open your mouth, you're saying something anti-black and you're in a white space, the regard for black anything is not in your MO. You're getting a check. Somebody's paying you to say that foolishness. And she's somebody who came out of nowhere anyway. She's just like Paris Denard. It's like, where'd y'all come from? Even though Paris Denard, he tried to mess with them white women and they Me Too'd him real quick, so we don't see him anymore. But, I can't. So somebody like Candace Owens didn't need to be there. Again, if you're going to have a panel of 6 or 7 or maybe 8 people representing 40 million people, get the people who have expertise in the categories, who can really carry the conversation, who can bring the tangible evidence. People need to see numbers. People need to see historical facts. There's people who've gone and they've studied law and case law, and they understand the ordinances that existed. They understand, amendments and articles in the Constitution that have been changed and shifted and everything like that. People understand the whole plight of how America was laid out. And so you just don't put people up there because we like them, or they're entertaining, or they look nice, or they started some kind of random business, so that all of a sudden that gives them expertise to speak on everything. Like, get out of here. So again, that mess they can keep. And I think they're doing another one in California. So hopefully somebody who was in charge just saw this little bit and they can go put some real people up there. Like, get the people where that's their range, that's their lane. That's what they live and breathe. Like, they wake up every day and the first thing they do is they go and they grab a book, or they go to the National Archives and dig up some more stuff. And they put, because these are the people that are putting out the information. Even though you see me always talking all this stuff, I'm getting my information from these people, from the research that they're putting out, from the articles that they're posting, from the archives that they're sharing that they went and dug up. Like, those are the people you need to put up there, not some random rapper. Come on, y'all. And it's not saying that just because you're a rapper you can't speak on these things, but that's not T.I.'s lane. He just showed you that with the reparations conversation, on top of the fact that he's already rich. So a reparations conversation doesn't affect him anyway. It doesn't matter whether black people as a collective get it, because he's already rich. He made his money from being an entertainer. So that summit, I was too done. And then just one quick update. You remember we did the story about the student who was the wrestler, and he had the locks, and the ref made him cut the locks in order to do the match. And there was a bunch of outrage and everything. Well, it was reported that that ref has been suspended for 2 years. Now, I thought he had already been fired and that was done with. But no, I guess he still had his job and they just suspended him. But, so there's your update. Even though I still get pissed thinking about that story, because the fact that you'd want somebody, something like Locs, you grow them for years. They're a lot of work, a lot of maintenance, and you put a lot of care into them. And then, for somebody to just have to chop them off for, a minute and a half wrestling match, get out of here. And then best wishes to the people who have been affected by all the crazy weather that's been taking place lately. Everybody who was affected by Hurricane Dorian, both in the Bahamas and the Carolinas and parts of Florida. The people in Texas affected by all the flooding. It's like, man, it's like one thing after the other, huh? Just absolutely crazy. In addition to that, I don't know if we've seen a story where the mother had to turn in the son because she found his journal, and in the journal he had a description of how he was planning to do a mass shooting on the 20th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. I was like, man, people are losing it. Like, I'm glad the mother was able to find that and she actually went and went to the next step. But it's crazy. As you're seeing a lot of these mass shootings, what I'm noticing, in addition to a few other facts, is that a lot of these people are really young. They're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, maybe 22. They're so young, and they've already made the decision that they're willing to throw their life away as well as take other people's life because of whatever reason they may have. And I'm like, that's crazy. There's something that, I don't know if it's just within this latest generation that maybe there's a void that people are just, that something is missing, and people are just trying to find ways to remedy that at any extreme. I don't know, but it's crazy to witness because it seems like there are so many more mass shootings than there were just a few years ago. One thing I always said was, well, these things always happen. It's just now you got social media and everything, so it's more amplified. But nah, it's like, since about what? 2012 was when, the Sandy Hook happened, and I want to say the movie theater shooting, and that was kind of crazy. But then, like, after about 2015 onward, it's like there's one every few months. And not just, the definition of a mass shooting is, I think, more than 3 people get shot. But some of these ones, you got 15 and 20 and 30 people getting shot at and everything like that. I'm like, this is crazy. Boy, people are losing it. So, okay. So we'll see where that goes. And then the last thing I do want to close on is the story with Khaseen Harris. I hope I said his name right. But this is the kid who there was that big brawl after school. Apparently, it was over a girl, and somehow he ended up getting stabbed, and he bled to death, and he died. And the issue that a lot of people were saying was because there were 70 witnesses out there, and all of them, instead of trying to help, were recording. Trying to make sure they got the right angle so they could go post it later on. And absolutely crazy. Now they've arrested the kid that did it. It's this I forgot the kid's name, but they arrested the guy that did it. And apparently that guy is the ex-boyfriend of the girl. And so the crazy bit, like what I was telling my coworker the other day, is like society has become so desensitized to violence and so desensitized to traumatic things that it's become the norm. And so many people, it doesn't even faze them to sit there and watch somebody get beat up and stabbed. I'm like, that's absolutely crazy. That's a horrible way to go out. And especially the fact that that video is going to always be there. And so that kid's family will never be able to escape that when they don't want to see the trauma of their son or their nephew or their grandson getting beat up and stabbed. That video will always still find its way around. You know what I mean? It's absolutely crazy. And so it's just crazy. And one of the things I've always said, especially when people bring cameras out, it seems that, especially with teenagers, if there's like a fight or something, it's almost like when people see that camera come out, they recognize they have to step it up even more because they don't want to get beat up and then go viral. So they got to, be a little bit more extreme than they would have if they were fighting and it was just the two of them and nobody was around. And so when that camera comes out and there's a crowd, people, that's when they go and they try to push the person's head into the brick and they go and get a chair and whack them like they're a UFC fighter and everything else. Like you just notice the fight becomes more intense when cameras come out. Something about those cameras being there and everybody watching, it creates like this vacuum of momentum where the people that are doing the fighting, it's amplified and they try to do even more. I remember growing up, usually when people used to fight, it was like, because when I was a teenager, camera phones weren't a thing yet. So if somebody was going to record a fight, you really had a real camera out there or whatever. But it wasn't really a thing. But I just remember when people fought when I was a teenager, there were some fights that would be pretty bad, but usually, people would fight and it was over with. Now these folks are like trying to kill each other, or they're trying to do the most extreme things to make sure that if they're on camera and they go viral, people will know that's the person not to mess with because, that's the person that broke the kid's arm. And in addition to that, like it was a bigger brawl. There were other people who were fighting as well, but a lot of people that were injured. But it's so sad, so sad. Because I just hate that. One, I hate that kids throw their lives away killing each other, and two, I hate that kids have to die. Because life is already short. When you don't even get an opportunity to be an adult and even get to, make those mistakes and have those experiences and you die because of, whatever situation is taking place, something that, most likely that girl and the guy and all those people, they won't even know each other in 2 years anyway. It's like, man, absolutely crazy. And the kid was only 16 that died. So, best wishes to his family. It's a lot. Anyway. This has been a pretty long video, but we hadn't been together for a while, so here we are. Anyway, share your 2 cents. I'm out. Come on.